It was the moment I realized everything I had done for my family didn't matter, not in her eyes, at least. My mom, the person I'd sacrificed everything for, stood up in front of everyone and said it. The words that shattered me forever: one of my kids is a disgrace. I knew she meant me, and that was the moment I decided to take control of my life, no matter the cost. My name's Ethan Clark, I'm 28 years old, and I work as a mechanic in a small town in upstate New York. Most days, I'm covered in grease and working long hours, nothing glamorous, but it's a job that keeps the lights on. The scent of motor oil and the hum of machinery are what I've come to know. My life is routine, simple, maybe even too simple at times. But beneath all that, I always had a feeling something wasn't quite right. You see, I've always put my family first, especially my mom, Carol. Growing up, I did everything I could to make her proud, even if it meant putting my own dreams aside. But what I didn't realize was that some people take your sacrifices for granted, and that's exactly what she did. My mom's never been the type to show much emotion. She'd always been a strict, no-nonsense woman, someone who believed that tough love was the only love worth giving. But lately, something had been off. The warmth in her eyes was gone. It was like I was invisible to her. I spent countless hours working on projects for her, fixing things around the house that I knew she couldn't afford to fix. I even skipped hanging out with my friends or dating, just to make sure she had everything she needed. But what did I get in return? The final blow came a week ago, when I heard her talking to my brother, Jack, in the other room. She said things I never thought I'd hear from her mouth, things about me that cut deeper than any physical wound. Ethan's too busy to care about his own family, she said. Jack's the one who actually does something with his life. I felt the air drain from my lungs. It was like everything I'd worked for had meant nothing. And just like that, I knew the storm was coming. It wasn't going to be pretty. The night of the dinner, everything was supposed to be normal: family, food, and laughter. But as the evening wore on, my mother stood up and made a speech. And then, it happened. She turned to face us all, her voice cutting through the silence. "One of my kids is a disgrace," she said, her eyes cold as they locked onto mine. My stomach dropped. The words hung in the air like poison. The room went silent, and I could feel the eyes of my family on me. My heart was racing, my breath shallow. I stared at her, unable to form words. She's talking about me, I thought. I knew it. There was no mistaking it. In front of everyone, she'd chosen to humiliate me. All the years of sacrifices, and this was my reward. I stood up to leave. My voice was tight with emotion. I can't do this anymore. And with that, I walked out the door, slamming it behind me. The cold night air hit me like a slap, but it didn't matter. I was numb. I spent the next few days in a haze, but I knew one thing for sure: I wasn't going to let her break me. I wasn't going to let anyone, not even family, hold me down anymore. I went to the garage, got to work, and started putting plans together. This wasn't going to be about anger. It was going to be about reclaiming my life. I made a list of everything I wanted to change, things I'd always pushed aside because I was trying to please everyone else. I started with one simple step. I walked into a nearby bank and took out a loan to start my own business. It was time for me to finally take control, to make something for myself. I wasn't just going to fix cars anymore, I was going to run the shop. Days passed, and the texts from my mom didn't stop. "Ethan, come home. This isn't you. Don't throw everything away for pride," she begged in one message. Another came: "Jack misses you. Please don't do something stupid." I didn't respond. I didn't need to. I was doing this for me, not for anyone else. Every call I ignored, every text unanswered made it clear: I was done playing the role of the family disappointment. This was my time. But there was one more step in my plan, the one that would finally show my mom just how far I was willing to go. A month later, I held the grand opening of my shop. The first few customers rolled in, and the place started buzzing. But what really changed the game was when I invited my family to see the success I'd built on my own terms. When my mom walked in, the look on her face was enough. She had nothing to say. The look of disbelief, the shame on her face, it was everything I needed. In that moment, I didn't feel bitter. I didn't feel angry. I just felt free. The crowd that gathered around me at the opening was buzzing with excitement. Some even recognized me from around town. But my mom? She stood in the corner, eyes averted, too proud to admit her mistake. The public humiliation was more than I could have ever hoped for. After that night, things changed. My mom stopped contacting me, and the rest of the family followed her lead. But I didn't care. My shop was thriving, and I was finally in control of my own life. The weight that had been on my shoulders for years had lifted, and I couldn't help but feel a sense of peace. I had learned something important. Sometimes, you have to leave behind what you love most to find out who you truly are. I've come a long way since that night. The smell of oil and fresh tires now reminds me of the freedom I fought for. And as I stand here, finally at peace, I'm reminded of this truth: no one can define your worth but you. If you've ever had to fight for your own dignity, I want to hear your story. Drop a comment below. And if you want more stories of overcoming the odds, make sure to subscribe. Because in the end, it's not about revenge. It's about reclaiming your power.